Good morning. We are leaving. I've been home for a long time. Well, I got home Friday. It's now Tuesday. So, we're going up to Cactus, Texas. Picking up a load to go to Denver. Make sure there's no one coming down the road. No. Careful here, I can't really see the end of the road or the side of the road. There we go. And I see my dumb dog back there in the back out on the street. Luckily, it's not a very busy street. Oh, God bless her. She's alright. She's a good dog. She's just dumb. She's supposed to be an outside watchdog, but I don't think she does. I don't think she really puts the fear of God in anybody. I mean, she is a big dog. She's a Great Dane, but Great Danes are not known for being scary. Just big. Mainly want to keep the coyotes out of the yard. We had a big 200-pound Anatolian Shepherd. Oh great, what is this guy doing? I got a pilot car. Oh, we've got a stupid wind farm coming. Got a pilot car blocking the intersection. Here we go. I ain't even got out on Main Street yet. Oh, I only got one of these stupid wind farm guys. I thought we quit building these stupid things. They make them in Amarillo, and they store a lot of them up in Garden City, Kansas. You see a bunch of them down at the Port of Houston. I'm sure the Port of New Orleans. They're useless. They provide no power. This is what they're good for right here. Blocking the roads. He's going to spend all day, so I'm going to go because he's not blocking the whole road and I got to get out of here. So I'm going to go out. No one else has any problems coming down this road with these things. I don't know why he's having. Of course, he's about to bottom out right there, I guess. Guess that's what he's worried about. Yep. I don't know what to tell you, bro. Take another route. Not gonna hurt our feelings any. I know people say, oh, Robert, he's a fellow trucker. You know, you should be in solidarity. I'm not. Not with these wind farm guys. That's all government subsidized. They don't pay for themselves. The government has to subsidize them. They do. I'm not trying to get political, but it's true. They provide no electricity to speak of. When you have to put hundreds of them out to provide not even as much electricity as punching one hole in the ground would. They're a boondoggle. That's what they are. And if you live in the high plains, you have to live with these things because they're everywhere out here. They're everywhere in the west. They've got some back east too, in areas where they can get wind. But they're polluted with them out here because we have a lot of wind. We don't have a lot of trees, so we have a lot of wind. Now, I've got an issue that plagues a lot of the trucking industry, and I was going to talk about it, kind of segue into it. I didn't even mean to get into that. But I have a reefer trailer, right? Well, we picked up upwards of 15 inches of snow while I was home. So I've got snow all on top of the trailer. Now, if it were a flatbed, no problem, right? I'd get up there with the broom and sweep it off. But I don't have a flatbed. I have a reefer. Therefore, I can't get up there and sweep it off. So what do? Well, there's not really much you can do. Right? I mean, there's not really much you can, unless you're willing to climb up there with the broom and sweep that off. There's really not much you can do. It sucks, but I advise any four-wheeler that gets behind a truck, if you see a bunch of snow up on the top of the trailer, get around them or back off or change lanes or do something, because it's not that the guy's being an a-hole. There's just really nothing he can do about it until it all blows off. And he's going to create a mini snowstorm in front of him. I get it. A lot of times guys will pick up trailers that have been dropped at a shipper or a customer, and they've been sitting there for a few days, and it snows. There's nothing you can do about it. Now, if you have a flatbed, like I said, you can sweep it off. And if you don't, there are some municipalities that will give you a ticket. But they don't really give you tickets for van trailers because they recognize not really much you can do. There are some trucking companies who have these, God dang this guy, who have these brushes up on poles that when you drive under them, they kind of brush a lot of the snow off, and that helps. Crying out loud. 3 miles on the road. But for the most part, there's not much you can do. Like, it's not doing it anymore. We had a good sunny day yesterday, even though it stayed below freezing. We had a good sunny day, melted some of it off. I just had a little bit. Excuse me while I sip my coffee. Another thing I saw on social media when I was home is, and you got to realize this was a massive storm, right? I mean, this storm went from Arizona all the way to the East Coast, up into Kansas, over to Chicago, across Ohio, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania had the road shut down, the trucks. Over to Boston, up into Canada. It was a huge storm. So it affected probably 90% of the drivers out there. Unless you're just traveling around the far southeast or Southern California, and even there they got the rain out of it. Maybe the extreme Pacific Northwest, chances are you weren't affected. anywhere else you were affected, either by the storm or the extreme cold temperatures. One of the two. So, you know, it affected a lot of people, and I saw a lot on social media. A lot of guys asking a lot of questions, and should I do this, should I do that? And I'm thinking, you know, I'm not anti-social media. Obviously, I use it. But this heavy dependence on it, to the point to where we lose our thinking, our sense of thinking, our sixth sense, is quite staggering. You know, it's really, it's I don't think it's healthy. And I'll give you an example, and you may think, you're being silly, blah, blah, whatever. I don't. And here's an example. My wife's vehicle, my wife's got a new vehicle. And it's got the auto headlights. Now, I've got auto headlights on my Tundra, which is a little older, but I don't use them. She not only has the auto headlights, but she's got the automatic bright lights, right? Where they're supposed to come on when there's no light. It's supposed to be able to sense there's not another car coming at you, whatever, and you can use your bright lights. Okay? Here's the thing. Our road is very dark at night. If you're coming down toward our house, it's very dark. Now, if you're coming up toward town, there are street lights, so it gets light. Well, I used her pickup one night to go do, I don't remember what, to go do something. And I knew she had the automatic headlights on, which drive me crazy. I didn't know that they had the auto bright lights on them. By the way, this truck has that. I didn't realize that at first. And no, I don't use it. And I'm getting called that. So I leave our house and I'm heading up toward town like I just did. And the auto bright lights come on. And that's when I realized that they were on, that she had to turn it on then. I'm like, oh, okay. Coming back toward my house where it was dark, auto headlights didn't come on. And I'm like, well, that's stupid. It's dark. The auto headlights shouldn't come on. But they didn't. And I said something to her about it, and she was like, oh, I didn't even realize they had that. I said, yeah, you got the auto headlights on as well. The auto, I don't like either one of them. And I'm going to tell you why. The auto headlights, what they end up doing is, when it's raining, they don't come on. Now, when International came out with that ProStar, they had the automatic lights to where if you turned your windshield wipers on, they came on. Now, that was irritating because if you just turned them on once, they would come on. And it's like, I don't need my headlights. It's not really raining. I just had a little drop of water on there. I wanted to, whatever. But you see a lot of cars going up and down the road in the rain, and I know you've always seen some that just don't bother to turn on their headlights because they have them on auto. And if the auto lights don't come on, they're not going to reach down there and, turn that dial. Well, what is this, the 1940s? Where you got to turn your headlights on? Hell no, my car does that. It does that for me. So that it doesn't get done. So they're driving around in the rain without their headlights on. Because that's what this ease of technology teaches us. It doesn't teach us anything, really. We devolve. We lose skills. We lose that sense of, hey, it's raining, I need to turn my headlights on. Now, I get it. There's always been a certain amount of people who just will not turn their headlights on in the rain. And you can show them video after video of what they look like in a truck's mirror without their headlights on. Like, you can barely see them, if at all. And if they get pushed off the road, hey, bro, that's kind of on you. You didn't have your headlights on. You can do that till you're blue in the face. Some people will never get it. I understand that. But there's even more people now doing it, and I contend it's because of the auto headlights. They are not going to reach down and turn that knob because their truck, their car does it for them. Right? And so you have more people now not using their headlights when it's rain and the snow or whatever. Because it's not dark enough for that sensor. The auto bright lights, well, that's just a whole nother ridiculousness. If you don't possess the skill to know when and where to use your bright lights, well, just buy a bicycle. Or if you're so lazy that you can't reach down and flip that switch, just go buy a bicycle at that point. But we lose these little mental life skills that we used to have. We slowly give more and more up to the machine, to the technology, to the point to where we're just going to be walking around like in that movie WALL-E, right? We're just walking around, morbidly obese, sucking everything through a straw, because that's all we know how to do. The technology is doing everything else for us. I know I sound like some rambling old man. Oh, this newfangled equipment. Look, no, I like new technology to a point. But it's getting, I believe, out of hand. Because when your auto headlights quit working, now, I know what you're going to say. Look, if it's dark, people aren't that stupid. They're going to turn their headlights on. I get it. But, like I said, in other times, in rain and snow and fog, a lot of them don't. Because if that sensor, like I said, if that sensor doesn't feel it's dark enough for the headlights, it's not going to turn them on. You'd be surprised how many people I see going down the road in thick fog with no lights on. And you don't see them till you're almost on top of them. I saw a guy when I was driving an oil field around here. I come off a gravel road. It was early in the morning. It was fog. It was thick with fog. I couldn't hardly even see the well site I was going to till I got on the property. And I was at the intersection of a highway. And I was just about to pull out when all of a sudden, boom, I just saw a glimpse of something go by. It was a car, and he was flying. He was speeding way too fast for the fog. No lights. No lights at all. Not only was he driving extremely fast for the conditions, but he had no lights at all. If I had not hesitated, he'd have smashed right in and probably killed me. I know it would have killed him or her, whoever. Probably would have killed me as well. Because I did not see him. No lights. Now, did the vehicle have auto headlights or not? I don't know. It went by so fast, I couldn't even tell you what kind of vehicle it was. But, so this person may not have had the brain cells of a kumquat as far as I know. I don't know. But still, it's just a point that most Americans do not possess any skills at driving. I know they think they do. They think they do. If you ask them, oh yeah, I'm a great driver. They don't. They're not. I can't speak for Europe or anywhere else, but here in the States, the majority of Americans are not very skilled at operating a motor vehicle. They're just not. And by the way, that goes for a lot of truck drivers nowadays too. Because these trucks have also gotten easier to drive. And the infrastructure is set up in such a way today to where you no longer really have to think on your feet like we worst. One thing about when I went to Alaska is you don't have road service everywhere. You don't have somebody who can just run out and do some little thing for you. You have to think on your feet. People do not possess that skill anymore. We used to carry enough, actually I still carry enough tools to dang near rebuild an engine if I have to. Not that I'm going to. Because also these engines have gotten to the point to where, I mean, there's not much you can do on them. I would be very hesitant to even change a belt on one of these modern engines. I mean, I could do it if I had to, but I'd be very hesitant to do it. Besides, if it's got a warranty, just about everything you do to that truck under the hood, you're in danger of voiding the warranty because they're just looking for an excuse. But still, I think you get my point. No need to beat the horse to death, but we've just lost so much skill that it's sad. It really is. Another thing I saw on social media was guys asking about setting trailer brakes in the cold. And I see so many misconceptions on setting trailer brakes. Oh, never set your trailer brakes. Never set them. Never ever. Never set them in the cold. Now, I don't really set my trailer brakes at all unless I'm dropping the trailer. Summer, winter, it's just a habit I'm in. I don't set them. 2 reasons. Well, really the main reason is just I'm in a habit. I don't want to make it complicated. Here's my thing. And I know some people will agree, some people will disagree. Right? Okay. I saw 2 misconceptions. One was, if you don't set your trailer brakes, you're going to have to chock your wheels because your truck brakes won't hold you. Your truck brakes will hold you. You don't have to set wheel chocks or anything. 2, you can never set your trailer brakes in cold weather. That's not true. Let me finish. Because I can see you now, you're about to start typing. If you wait, and this is what we used to do in Alaska, if you wait about 10 or 15 minutes, some guys say 20, 10 minutes has always been enough for me, especially if it's extremely cold. If you wait about 10 minutes and let those brakes cool, then set them, they won't freeze. They won't freeze. Because like when we were pulling, say, sets, like pulling doubles up there, we'd get to, say, the Carlisle yard in Fairbanks. It's minus 40, right? You don't set any trailer brakes. You don't set the converter. You just pop the truck brakes. I would do my electronic log, boop, boop, whatever I got to do there. I'd do my paperwork. I would get out. I would unhook my airline or my electric cord from between the trailers, roll it up, put it in my side box. I'd go ahead and crank down the back trailer, crank down the dolly. That's going to take a minute because it's minus 40 and that grease is cold. Crank it down, kill some time, get back in the truck, and then in about 8-10 minutes, I'd go ahead and pop up the brakes for the trailers. Pop, let them set. Right? set them. Then I'd go ahead, pull the front trailer out, put the converter dolly out, and do my thing there, and they would roll. Trailer brakes would roll. They didn't freeze. So if you wait, like I said, about 8-10 minutes, some guys say longer. I've never had a problem with 10 minutes. And then set them. They won't freeze. Now but one thing we used to have guys do when I was pulling freight in and out of the Carlisle terminal, they're local drivers, the guys who live up there. They would bring a trailer in the yard, back it into a spot, and blast the brakes right away. In other words, they gave 0 F's because they're about to pull out from under that trailer, park that truck, and go home. So there you are. It's minus 40 outside, snow on the ground, and you're laying up underneath that trailer beating on trailer brakes. It's a miserable thing to have to do. It really is. And I don't know how many times I've had to do it, but I've had to do it. And you'd think them guys up there would know better. And they do. They just didn't care. That's what we call it, blasting the brakes. You set the trailer brakes. So you can, excuse me, my voice cracking. You can technically set the trailer brakes in extreme cold. Just wait. What I do, like if I'm parked somewhere and I'm turning the engine off, like if I'm at my house and it's going to be cold like it has been here, I will set the truck brakes and not the trailer brakes. Now, if I got a trailer that's got a little bit of a leak, it's going to bleed off. If I'm sitting home a couple of days, it's liable to bleed off. And then they're going to automatically set. But by then, the brakes are cooled off. It doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt anything. You know, if you're doing a drop and hook, be nice. Wait a few minutes before you blast those brakes. Because I'll tell you what's going to happen there. The yard guy's going to pick that trailer up. Do you think that yard guy is going to crawl under your trailer and beat your brakes loose? Nope. He's going to grab that thing, he's going to raise it up, and he's going to drag your tires all the way to that dock. He's going to drag them back. And, you know, they'll probably pop loose eventually, depending on how far he's got to go with them. And he's going to drag them back. And now you're going to pick that trailer up, or some other driver from your company is going to pick that trailer up, and they're going to have ruined tires. And then your boss is going to say, oh, you drugged those up. Nope, I didn't. The last drive, nope. He'll say, nope, I didn't drag them. They got drugged at the shipper or at the customer. And of course, the shipper or the customer goes, oh, no, our guys know better than do that. Or they'll say, that's on your driver. He should have waited a few minutes before he set those trailer brakes. And then they wouldn't have froze up. So anyway, that's the thing, the deal with trailer brakes. You can set them in extremely cold weather. You just don't set them right away. Now, I've talked about this several times before, so people who have watched my videos have heard it, you know, they've heard me talk about this. But I'm going to talk about it again because there's new people and people who haven't watched my previous videos. Here's another misconception. You can't use your engine brake in the snow. BS. To a point, BS. Let me finish. Let me elaborate. When I was running the Dalton Highway, we used our trailer brakes, we used our engine brake going like down Adigan Pass, things like that. The Shelf, Beaver Slide. We used them on second stage. We didn't use full jakes. Can't use full engine brakes. We set them on second stage. Now in the summertime we did. Summertime we'd run them full stage. In the wintertime we ran them second stage. Second stage, traction control off. Lockers off. No lockers on and no traction control. Going down. Going down. Because traction control will push you. Just like your full lockers will tend to push the back of that truck out from under the front of that trailer and you'll jackknife. So get up to the top. If you have lockers off, traction control off, second stage Jake, and ease down the hill. I know I'm going to get grief from Billy Big Riggers out there because they were told their entire life never ever use an engine brake in the snow going downhill. And I'm just here to tell you it's not true unless you're using full stage engine brake. Yeah, you should not use a full stage engine brake. You can use second or third or whatever. Third stage engine brake to me is useless, but you know, whatever. There are a lot of misconceptions that get started in this industry because one guy says it and he really doesn't know what he's talking about, and it spreads like wildfire. Even without the CB being as utilized as it once, it still spreads. It spreads in the truck stops, on the shipper customers' docks, wherever two truck drivers get together, you can bet there's at least one false story being told. And the other guy soaks it up and he spreads it. When I started driving, I used to hear this story about how a certain guy goes to a grocery warehouse. Sometimes they'll name the grocery warehouse, sometimes they won't. And they get up there and the receiver says, you got to unload that yourself or hire lumper. Oh yeah, watch this. And the guy pulls a card out of his wallet with the U.S. Marshal's number on it. And he calls the federal marshals and they show up and they arrest that receiver because the law states that you can't make the driver unload it or hire somebody to unload it. Now, the funny part is when they name the receiver and then you go there later on and you still have to hire a lumper or unload it yourself because none of that crap ever happened. You know, and when I first started driving, I used to hear this a lot. I used to think, man, am I the only truck driver who doesn't have the federal marshal's phone number in his pocket? Because I don't. And I wouldn't even know how to get it. This is before Google. This is before the internet. You know, I guess I could look it up in a phone book. And do they have nothing better to do? Because in every story, they show up like within minutes. They burst in there and they arrest the receiver. I'm like, wow. So these guys are just sitting around waiting for truck drivers to call them about this, apparently. It's crazy. But then after a while, you go to all these grocery warehouses and you're still having to either pay or do it yourself. And you're thinking, you know, if that were true, they would all stop doing this tomorrow. They say, hey man, that guy down there at the whatever, you know, at the Winn-Dixie got arrested for having drivers on. I'm not going to get arrested. We're gonna start doing this ourselves. The fact of the matter is, if you read that green book that everybody loves to quote, you are technically responsible for that load up to the back of your trailer until it gets off your trailer. So they can require you to either unload it yourself or hire a lumper. Most places don't. It's just easier nowadays for them to just do it. Some do have the lumper service inside like they have their own office inside the shipper and the receiver. And so much of that is either prepaid now, or you just give them a number. You don't even have to give them a physical check anymore. You know, it's not what it used to be. It's not a bunch of guys standing around outside a fence and they jump on the side of your truck. Hey man, you know, I'll help you, blah, whatever. Or you do it yourself. It's not like that anymore. So here we are. That was another one of those stories that you just have to use some common sense when you listen to it and think, don't really, don't know about that. If it sounds far-fetched, it's probably far-fetched. But those things spread. Like people thinking there's a federal law against carrying a firearm in a commercial vehicle. There is no federal law barring you from carrying a firearm. Now, like and I've stated this before, there are state laws, and it depends on, you know, if you're running Maine to California, you might want to, don't know about that. I run mainly in the western half of the country, with the exception of California. So every state that I travel in has reciprocity with Texas. So I have an LTC card, and even though I don't need an LTC card in Texas, some states still require them. So my LTC card has reciprocity with states like, say, Nebraska, that you still have to have an LTC. And I've said this multiple times. I have been pulled in the scales. I have had interactions with cops on the road, and they'll get up on my running board or whatever. First thing I tell them, officer, I have a 9mm, whatever. No problem. Never had a problem. In fact, most of the time, they're more interested in, what kind you got? What kind of rounds are you using? Things like that. Because they're gun guys. They go to the range a lot. I accidentally left one in a truck that was getting worked on, and I forgot about it. And after we got done, the guy's like, hey, what kind of gun is that? I'm like, oh crap, man, I'm sorry. I usually put it up somewhere. No, it's okay. It didn't bother me anyhow. I was just curious what kind of gun it was. You got it in a holster. And I tell them, oh, okay. But normally I'd put it up because some people, are funny. But plus, I don't want it falling into the wrong hands. It was really careless of me not to do that. But so you got to be careful, Always inform the officer. I don't care what anybody tells you. I do not care what anyone tells you. If you want that stop to go off with no problems, always let them know. 2 reasons. One, it's a lot better for you to tell him than if he spots it and you didn't say anything. That's going to piss him off. And 2, if you let him know, it puts him at ease real quick. It lets him know that you mean him no harm, that you know the law, and like I said, most of those guys are gun guys. Now you're a gun guy, and you know the law, and it kind of makes them a little friendlier towards you. A lot of these guys, especially in the Midwest, especially in Nebraska or Texas or Kansas or Oklahoma or Wyoming, Dakota, you tell those guys, oh really? And like I said, most of them, oh, what kind you got? And that's what you're going to get out of them. Now they're talking to you about guns, right? Now now, the next thing you know, after about 5-minute conversation about guns, well, anyway, I was pulling, you was going a little fast. Just slow it down a little bit. Okay, all right. I'm not going to say it works every time. And I'm not going to say you should carry a gun just for that reason. I'm just saying, if you're carrying one and you let them know ahead of time, it just makes things go so much smoother. So much smoother. But I do not advocate anyone out here carrying a firearm if you do not know the law and you do not have an LTC card. I don't care if you're from a constitutional carry state like I am, still get an LTC. You can still do it. Bottom line is, though, if you're not going to bother to follow the rules, follow the laws, be respectful to law enforcement regarding the firearm, then don't do it. Just don't do it. Because you're going to get yourself in trouble. I used to carry a 9 with 2 magazines, and I'd have them right here by my seat, the gun and the magazine, extra magazine. And I got pulled on the scale in Nebraska, and the guy comes up on the run, comes out of the building, comes on the run, yeah, we're just checking, permits. What I said, okay, it's hey, just to let you know, I got a 9mm sitting right here. And he kind of leans over and looks at me and says, oh, okay. I said, oh, you got another magazine? I said, yeah. Okay. What kind of rounds you using? I don't remember what kind I had. I told him. Oh, okay. Really? He said, what kind of 9 is that? It's a Mossberg. Mossberg, they're making handguns. Yeah, they're making handguns now. Oh, wow, that's pretty cool. Okay. And, he was cool with it. Now, if I'd have been in Chicago, or if I'd have been in California, I say Chicago because downstate Illinois, I probably wouldn't have any problems. Or if I'd have been on the East Coast, if I'd have been anywhere, say from North Carolina northward, they may have been okay with the gun, but the extra magazine, oh, what are you trying to do? Start a war? You think you're going to war with somebody? You think you need all that ammunition? I'd have probably put at least the extra magazine away. Include North Carolina. I know a lot of guys from the South are going to say, oh man, North Carolina's cool. I include North Carolina because North Carolina, they do not like trucks, and any excuse to give a truck driver grief, they're going to take it. And Virginia has gone full on socialist. So, I'm just saying. Tennessee, probably depend on the cop. Same with Georgia. Probably depend. If you're in the Atlanta area, you're probably you might catch some grief. Same with Tennessee. If you're in Nashville area or Memphis area, now you get off in the eastern Tennessee out there, some of them good old boys working, you'd probably be all right. It's like here in Texas. If I got pulled over by a cop for some reason, the city cop in Dallas or Dallas County or down in Houston or some Austin, yeah, I might catch some grief. Get out here in West Texas, I'd probably catch more grief if I didn't have a firearm on me. I mean, I'm kind of joking there, but I'm just saying, the sheriff in the county I live in, he wants everyone armed. Or everyone who wants to be armed. You're not going to force anybody to be armed. But, he encourages anyone who wants to be armed and, is a responsible gun owner and things like that. He wants them to be armed. Off to our right is the Leaning Tower. That tower was built on purposely like that. The Britton family owns that. They have a lot of money. They have big ranches around here. Just kind of a fun fact. You can see I-40 is fine. If you're coming out this way. They actually got much less snow out this way. They only got a few inches in Amarillo. They got back in New Mexico. And to our left is the Groom Cross. That is the largest cross in the Western Hemisphere. They've got a big one like this in Effingham, Illinois. But this one must be bigger, apparently, because it's supposed to be the biggest. Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions in this industry. There's a lot of rumor. There's a lot of tall tales. There's a lot of guys who just want to look like they know what they're talking about, and they really don't. Unfortunately. I see so much misconception on social media, on these trucking groups like on Facebook and such. And I'm just like, sometimes I'll get on there and try to correct somebody. And a lot of times I'll just get a bunch of laugh emojis from guys who don't know what the heck they're talking about. And they think I don't. And I'm like, whatever, guy, whatever. I know you've been driving a whole 2 years, and so you're an expert. Okay. And I just give up. Saw a lady on there who was stressing because she left her diff lock in. She forgot. Now, almost all modern trucks now, unless you go in the computer and change it, almost all modern trucks, the diff cuts out or unlocks at 35 miles an hour. Almost all lower 48 highway trucks are like that. 35 miles an hour, they cut off. For that reason, if you leave them locked in, they're not running at high speed. Now, I say lower 48 highway trucks. There are some oil field trucks where they go in the system and they turn that up. We can go faster. Alaska trucks, you can go up to, I think most of them, up 70 miles an hour with the lockers in. But this woman was stressing that she ruined her rear ends because she left her diff lock in. Going down the road, she forgot. And all these guys are like, oh yeah, your rear ends are trashed. Oh yeah, they're destroyed. I went on. Your rear ends are not trashed. They're not destroyed. Chances are, you got a light on that dash. You probably didn't notice it. They said your inner axles cannot be used above 35 miles an hour, and they automatically unlocked. If they didn't, stress over it. There are some trucks that are set up to run up to 70 mile an hour with full lockers in. So don't stress over it. But yet all these guys, oh my God, yeah, your rear ends are toast. If her rear ends were toast, she'd already know it. For one thing, but for another, it's ridiculous to scare people like that, because you want to seem like you know something about something that you know nothing about. Just scroll past and keep your mouth shut. Why you try to scare this woman? Because you want to seem like, look at me, I know something about something. Unfortunately, that's the way people are, especially in this industry. I don't understand it, but that's the way they act. It's the guy from Minnesota who just come blowing past me. For some reason they decide they're going to tailgate UPS. Modern trucks are pretty dummy proof, and I say that, I'm not trying to be rude, you know, I'm just saying that they're pretty dummy proof as far as you know, if you accidentally leave, like say your diff locks in or something, they're going to shut off. Like guys freak out, they get a check engine light on or something like that, or lose power, blah blah, whatever. Check your fluids first. A lot of trucks, if you get so low on coolant or oil especially, it will derate your engine, or it'll tell you, it'll give you an engine warning. Even if it doesn't specifically tell you what the warning is. Check your fluids before you start freaking out. Anyway, I hope, you know, I like to give some tips. Like I say, I see so much misconception in this business from guys who are, shall we say, legends in their own minds. And they just end up spreading bad information. Really no need for it. If you don't know about something, just keep your trap shut. You know, I'm gonna get up here close to the Tyson plant. And then I'm going to pull off, well, I'm going to get off the interstate, get close to the Tyson plant. And I'm going to pull off and I'm going to go off can PC from my house back to the point of where I stopped. That's where I did a drop and hook when I went home. Was at the Tyson plant. So I can PC back to that point. Now, I can't PC all the way to Cactus. Although I'd like to. We used to do that. But then they kind of started like, no, you can't do that. Not unless you dropped the trailer and then went home, or unloaded and then went home from Cactus. Then you could do it. Like if I dropped the load at the Tyson plant in Holcomb, Kansas and went home, I could PC back to Holcomb. But I didn't. But I terminated my on-duty or driving status at the Tyson plant up here in Amarillo. Therefore, I can PC back to the Tyson plant in Amarillo. And I know I'm going to get a bunch of guys on that one too. They're going to tell me I'm wrong. I'm not wrong. Our safety person is very vigilant on the PC thing. Believe me. We've talked to Colorado DOT and people like that about it, and they, she's gone. She's dotted her I's and crossed her T's. Let's put it that way. Freezing, 35 degrees. All right. First time we've been above freezing since I guess Friday. My little tips and you think they're helpful, do me a favor, like, subscribe. It gets in an algorithm, and I've said this 1,000 times and I'll say it again. I make money driving a truck. That's how I make money. I don't make money off YouTube. I'm not trying to be like some social media star. I mean, yeah, it'd be great if I had 100,000 subscribers, because it would get my message out there even more. I like to give my knowledge and experience out there to people. Pretty flat the closer you get to Amarillo. Amarillo sits up on top of the Cap Rock. So it's like sitting up on top of high plateau up here. So it flattens out pretty good. probably spend a year doing a video at least once a week talking about them. Most of you guys have been doing this for a while, you know them. And you just kind of shake your head, and well, you'll hear guys talking, and you say, okay, whatever. It's not even worth me even trying to push back. If you go to a bar, you're at a truck stop somewhere, you'll hear a lot of it. There's old Minnesota again. I don't know. I guess I'll go ahead and end this video. It's been an hour. I've noticed that if I do an hour or more people will watch. If I do like 20 minutes, you don't get near as many views. I'll go pull up here anyway. Once I get off the interstate, stop, go on duty, do a pre-trip. Yeah, I mean, I technically did that at my house before I left. I'm going to go on duty shop, so I'm going to show the pre-trip up here. And then head to Cactus. Load's supposed to be ready. And then I'll head to Denver. The place I'm going to in Denver is one of our big customers, but it is a royal pain the way the docks are. I don't really like going there, but it is what it is. So anyway, like, subscribe, etc. and all that. I appreciate you watching and all that. Yeah. We will be back